Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Serious Business Conversation. I'm Deborah Neal Baker, and today our guest and the person I'll be having a conversation with is the founder of the Left Brain Group, and her name is Aryn Detres, and we are very happy to have her. She, like me, has a lot of passion for this industry, so you're going to hear two highly passionate people just in dialogue about our special industry. So welcome, Aryn.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's I'm excited to have you. And so why don't you tell our audience a little bit of your story? How did you get to
Sure.
be where you are today?
Sure. I started my beauty career 2004. I was living in New York, which is where I'm originally from, and I applied for an inside sales position at Bumble and Bumble. And I was pretty excited to learn about the company. And it was a very arduous interview process. I mean, at some point, I thought they were going to ask for a blood sample. That's how many people I interviewed with. But the more and more I learned about the company, the more and more excited I became about it. And I began working there as inside sales in 2004 and spent 10 years working for them in a variety of different areas, primarily sales. I lived on the East Coast and then I moved out to LA and worked on the West Coast, working as an outside sales consultant in the field, which was really fun and got to learn a lot about the industry and meet so many amazing people. And then I also worked for them when they launched their retail partnership with Sephora, which was definitely very interesting. And I call it the Mall of America tour. I think I've seen, and North America, I should say, because I've pretty much been to everyone in Canada as well. And that was a really interesting learning experience teaching non hairdressers about layering and cocktailing products. And I also managed the education team at Bumble and Bumble, which was then called the Bumble Live team, and worked with them. So I spent about 10 years working for them, doing a plethora of different roles and learning a lot. And then I left Bumble and Bumble and actually worked with Michael Gordon for a year when it was pre-Hair Story. It's now called Hair Story, but it was actually called Purely Perfect. And I couldn't pass up an opportunity to work intimately with, the founder of Bumble and learn from him. And then in 2014, I left it all in New York. I said, if I don't leave now, my husband, who is a photographer, and we actually have a plant shop here in New Orleans as well, just had a love affair with the city. And he was so over New York, and he was like, I want to go to New Orleans. My heart's in New Orleans. And I said, okay, well, now's the time. So we picked up, we moved, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. Actually, I applied to work um, for Neil Group for as a manager of the Aveda salons. I was kind of figuring out what I was going to do here, if I was going to work for another brand, do something on my own. I had started to work with my friend Alejandro, who was distributing tools, professional tools, and kind of sourcing them from all over. So I did that for a little bit. And I was just ready to that point where I always knew I wanted to do something on my own. I love being in the hair industry. I really didn't know what that was going to be. And I had remained very close friends with Garrett Markinson, who is the founder of Reverie Hair Care. And at the time, he only had Milk, his hero product. And he approached me to help him with distributing his brand and representing the brand. And I became excited about that. And then I had Dre Donahue, who was an educator at Bumble, who had left, went on her own, and was having challenges with booking and doing all of the logistical details around doing independent education, which at the time it was kind of, unheard of. And so I slowly started building this roster, and that's how the Left Brain Group was born. And that's kind of what I started this agency. I'm sure we'll get more into that, but yeah, that's kind of my journey. I've been in the hair industry for a long time. I love it. And I just felt that it was time for me to do something different.
And it's funny, so you called it the left brain, of course, and that was probably around the time, we've been calling it your left brain or your right brain, and hairdressers are more right brain. So you were adding a little bit more of the left brain energy to what hairdressers needed with the organization.
I came up with so many horrible names. It was just, what can I call this? And I honestly didn't even call it an agency until a couple of years into it. But I said, okay, here are these creatives. Anyone that has their own business knows that from soup to nuts, I mean, there's just so much that goes into making a successful event. Representing a brand, launching a workshop. There's just so many details. And while I've been in the hair industry, I, like you, Deborah, am not a hairdresser. I've thought about it many times and was like, oh, maybe I'll go to beauty school. But at that point, I felt like I'm a little too old. I think my dexterity might not be as well. I'm going to stick to what I know and stick to business. And it just kind of clicked to me. I said, like I'm the left brain to the artist brain. And I felt like at the time there was this sprinkling and rumbling coming to the surface for independent artists that weren't tied into a manufacturer. And I thought, well, they're going to need a lot of help getting their voice out there and getting all those details and logistics done so they can excel at what they do. And so I kind of created this nice partnership with hairdressers where I help them with the logistical left brain aspects of their roles, and they get to shine in their creative right brain side.
So how many how many people do you represent? But more importantly, what are the different formats of education that you are helping them organize, and which ones do you think are going to be really the most relevant now and in our near future based on where we've been in the last year?
Sure. Well, there's so many different types of learners. People learn so many different ways. I myself am a very visual person as well when I take in information. And so we have in-person workshops, which people are definitely itching to get back into community and to be around people. So we're going to probably start picking that up more heavily towards the end of 2021 and into 2022. So we do in-person workshops, which can consist of demonstration, hands-on practice. So we'll continue to do that. Since the pandemic, we've really stepped up our virtual education. Personally, I'm not like that enthused about it, but it is something that we've embraced and will continue to be a tool. And I think for a lot of people that maybe aren't able to travel or have a really broad audience that can't make it from overseas, now we can do in person and stream. So we'll continue to definitely do virtual education. And another popular aspect of education that is continuing to grow is our one-on-one education. And for those that truly want a personalized, customized, intimate experience, almost like more of a mentorship, that will also continue, or small group education as well. So
how do you execute a one-on-one? Is it, of course, now it's been more virtual.
Mhm.
But do you see them, do they go to the salon, and how do they meet face to face with the hairdresser and do
Yeah, it
technical?
depends. Yeah, it would be technical. We also do a lot of one-on-one business coaching as well. So it's not just technical education that we offer. In assembling this arsenal of talent in our agency, I really wanted the Left Brain Group to be a marketplace where you could really cherry pick whatever you need for your business right now. And it's not always technical education. Sometimes
Oh,
it's, as you know, serious business,
yeah.
education, business support, coaching. So sometimes it's virtual coaching. Um, it could be a follow-up call from an educator, and then they put a plan together where they're executing it, whether they're together, and then there's follow-up in person. So there's a lot of different
Yeah.
ways. I'm really about the customization of how are we going to make it work for the student. And our artists are pretty flexible
Yeah.
in how they can adjust to make things
Well,
successful.
I have, I've been hearing and seeing that a lot of the, kind of the middle, like the millennial hairdressers are really highly interested in business.
Mhm.
And I haven't seen that. For years and years. We were, always promoting the need to balance your business acumen with your technical acumen. And now
Sure.
I'm seeing and hearing hairdressers really promote that, support it, and almost they're demanding the younger hairdresser really open themselves up to getting financial and business, training. Are you
Yeah.
seeing
Well, I
that?
think definitely, I think the landscape of just the salon industry has shifted so much over the last 10 years, definitely within the last 5 years, where there's that shift into more independent hairdressers, salons, where they've been, whether they've chosen or been forced into that business structure. Um, I think for many felt like they were thrown to the wolves and really had no idea um, what they were going to do in terms of business. They had the technical skills, they had their clientele, but then it came to ordering color, doing taxes, all of these things that, coming from a commission salon, you take for granted or maybe not realize how much is being provided for you. And now a lot of people are on their own and are forced to take a serious look at how they're running their business behind the chair. And so I think there's been a huge push for that. And it's exciting to see because I think there's a lot of ownership, even a commission salon, just thinking about your chair as your business and how do you um, excel in that. And social media has definitely, I think, played a part in that as well.
Yeah, we always, will talk about for decades we've been having so many of the same conversations over and over, and I really do. It does seem like that's starting to shift. That finally, a lot of the conversations about business and financial acumen, I don't feel like no one has to force that anymore. I think people are
Mm-hmm.
craving it and wanting it. And if it's, and you mentioned about whether it's the commission salon, because honestly, if you're in a commission salon and the more you know about business and the financial aspect, probably the more willing you are to do what it takes to be
Mm-hmm.
collectively successful.
Definitely. And, not only has the landscape in the salon industry changed where people are more independent, but there's also a lot more education, entrepreneurship information out there that isn't just from the manufacturers who, in my experience, coming from Bumble and Bumble, which was, equivalent to the Harvard of hair, right? It was like the echelon of education from a manufacturer, in my opinion. It, yes, they taught so much about best business practices. And at the end of the day, it was also about selling more product. And so I feel that there's been a big shift in where hairdressers can also receive this information and feel connected and want to grow their business outside of just product. And so I think that's been another shift as well.
But don't the product sales just happen as a result of all this education? I mean, and their awareness and education. I think everything increases as a result of that. Product sales and everything else.
Yeah, of course. Product sales will increase. But I think the information that people are tapping into goes beyond just that, and really looking at building emotional intelligence, looking at different ways to build your business on social media. And I feel like where, obviously coming from a manufacturer, it's very, can be product centric. And I feel like now people are engaged and interested into other metrics that can help them grow their business besides just productivity and product sales, and looking at other markers besides retention and things like that will help them to be successful. So I think it's very exciting and encouraging that people are into business knowledge and not just focusing on the technical training as well. It can only take you so far.
Yes. Yeah. So what do you, as a result of this last year, and everybody's talking about what's, all the changes. So what really major change have you seen that was not that has been a catalyst, that the pandemic has been a catalyst for? Because I think a lot of change was happening already, but the pandemic then, accelerated everything.
For hairdressers specifically in the salon industry, including myself as well, what I'm hearing is that it was the opportunity to be forced to stop and reprioritize what is important and how people are spending their time. I think time is probably our most valuable resource, and for people to look at their books and be like, God, like I've been working myself to the bone, have no personal life, I'm not happy. And because of the pandemic, where there were so many restrictions and PPE and all these things that had to be implemented in order to open and to run a business, where people were doing split shifts, appointments were longer. And I think that was probably the biggest aha moment, and that I've been hearing in my conversations with salon owners about what they're keeping and what they're implementing going forward is, not working Saturdays, making their appointments longer and charging more, charging hourly. I think it was just a big wake-up call for people to take a step back and prioritize what was important to them. And I think people needed a bit more kindness and self-care for themselves, to maybe take a step back and take a breather from working themselves, to insanity, and not really receiving joy from it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know you represent Destroy the Hairdresser, and I love their how they just question all these practices that we've always had in our industry, whether it be, the hourly rate or the no tipping. I've always been a fan of no tipping, but that's a really difficult one. But it looks to me like too that we are in a beauty boom. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I keep hearing that there's a shortage of hairdressers and assistants. People are craving good hairdressers, people that are open to working, that want to work, that want to contribute, that want to be part of an organization, do great work. Right now, there's just a lot of salons looking for people. I feel like all of the great people are working for themselves.
Really, that's what you. Yeah, because it's definitely, there is I know everybody's having to relook at training and recruiting because they've lost, we've lost senior people, a lot of people in the industry, and you can't just hire someone out of school, and they're not a replacement. It's not a replacement strategy.
Yeah, it's this line of, well, I do want to have more time to book with my clients, and I want to maybe work a little bit less, charge more. But at least in my conversations with the salons that I work closely with, the clients aren't the problem. They don't know how to accommodate everybody. They're in this sort of jam where they don't want to turn people away, but you don't want to get back into those old habits, and there's just not enough people to service everyone who's like ready to come back and be like, okay, I'm ready to get my hair done. So I definitely think things have turned around actually rather quickly, because it was pretty dire
Yeah.
at some point.
Do you
so I
think
things are coming back.
that will increase prices across the board? And if the independents are if they decide to charge more, is that going to have a ripple effect in all of our industry?
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
I think people should really be charging for their time, for their training, for their experience. Everything during the pandemic in terms of supply chain, all the way to services and PPE. I mean, just everything is more expensive. And unfortunately, the hairdressers don't always think of themselves first, that they should up their pricing. So I hope that, I think it's both independents and commission salons. Everyone's kind of reevaluating. And I think there's a lot of camaraderie amongst companies like the Left Brain Group, companies like the Neal Group, manufacturers, distributors, that everyone is really kind of lifting up the salon industry and saying, hey guys, like, we need to up it together. I think there's, for a while, lots of campaigns, lots of talk about just raising your prices. It's time. So I think we can all kind of agree on that, it's time for people to raise their prices as a collective. I think, we're stronger in numbers when you do something like that.
I have another question, since you're so familiar and so connected to the independents. Do you think that there are going to be independents that decide that they want to come back and work in a company or a business salon where there's a team of people working together?
Yeah, it's so personal. The grass is always greener in certain ways. I think for commission salons that employ best practices and instill and give their team more freedoms, where it feels similar to the freedoms they might have in an independent salon, sure. One of the things about the pandemic, and especially doing virtual education, people working from home, it's like, you can only do it for so long until you're like going stir crazy and just want to be around people. One of the things that we were trying to plan before the pandemic was more multi-artist events and workshops, just because even though all of the artists are independent of one another within the agency, it's still nice to collaborate and work with your friends and see people and be together. And so I definitely think there's a big boom right now, just because it was just, we got to do something. We got to figure this out because salons can't open. I want to service my clients. It was kind of survival mode. And so we'll see. I think there's going to be people that enjoy having their independence and like the freedoms that it brings them. And I think there's going to be other people that want to come back to being around people in a team and feel like they're not just the lone wolf out there. Because even on social media, you could be super popular and feel super lonely too. So it'll be interesting to see. Right now, I just feel like it's just a big disbursement.
Right.
And so many salons, even prior to the pandemic, were like moving to a new location, then that got held up. And then, with building out spaces and all of that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how people come back together or where they end up. I think it's still a little too early to tell, but
Yeah, I agree. I think the next 6 months or so will be very telling. But you mentioned about you do see that there's a possibility that some of the independents will, relook at it and maybe end up wanting to relook at a salon environment. And you said about best practices. So what are a couple of the new best practices that would really attract the hairdresser, the independent hairdresser that you know?
I think the hourly pricing is definitely a popular trend in business practice that I see gaining popularity. I think having the freedom to make your schedule, I mean, that's just always been like such a sticking point for people about
I
their
know.
time. I mean, time is just, again, so valuable. I think that really has importance now. Um, yeah, those are two things I'd say, some best practices, maybe with possibilities for commission or rental or some kind of hybrid structure, maybe in the salon. I know, that might be more flexible for certain people.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd say those are two things.
it seems like right now in everything that we're in this hybrid culture. And
Yeah.
in the next 6 months to a year, it'll kind of, work itself out what we're going to be. And, because serious business, we had a very successful virtual serious business. And then this next year, we're going to do a hybrid. But who knows if that's what we'll do the next year. And I
Same
think
thing.
I think everything is kind of up for grabs. It's like we have all these options now.
Yeah, which, I like. I mean, Bayou St. Blonde, which is our annual hair event that we do in New Orleans, which is usually the weekend after serious business. So I love it. People just spend like an entire week here in New Orleans and get to have so much education and inspiration and fun in the city. And we did ours virtually this year. We had a small crew here in New Orleans and we streamed from here. And then we had a crew in New York and a crew from LA. And so that was definitely an interesting experience and in some ways easier, some ways more challenging. And then we plan on doing it again this year in January, the following weekend. I haven't announced it yet. Maybe a little sneak peek announcement. But
So you're going to do
we're
it.
planning on doing a hybrid.
You're doing it
too.
the week after serious business, though, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
No, but I think that that's very wise of you, very smart. I think there needs to be more. I heard today, Salon today, their data-driven event they're putting with a major hair show now. Instead of it being a standalone, it's being a part of. I think that we're all, I think that's a really good thing that we're all coming together.
I think so. I think it's fun. Like, I've had artists be part of Elevate Hair. We've done just so many different collaborations. I love working with Tatum and we've done some great things together. So I just think the more the merrier. Plus, New Orleans is a very unique city. It's like we got to look at the calendar. We got to see when Mardi Gras is.
Yeah, festivals, different. Yeah.
Festivals, Super Bowl, serious business. So I'm always kind of seeing like what's happening. And this year Mardi Gras is late. It's March 1st. So we have plenty of time, to celebrate and have fun.
Well, in wrapping this up, I don't know if you've seen the latest issue of Vogue magazine, but they've got two articles that are about our industry. Well, the one of them is called The Short and Long Story, and it's about the mullet, which Tatum, they should have interviewed Tatum, right? And they're talking about, that now coming out of this pandemic, that people in isolation are like really looking for some transformation, and that they really are saying that people are wanting real haircuts, not just trims, but haircuts. So I think that's a great thing for our business. And and then the other article, they refer to the beloved beauty therapist, and that's how they refer to their hairdresser, beloved beauty therapist. And it really is such a great reminder of what we already know, that we've always, but for the hairdresser and for everyone in the beauty industry, they're really essential workers.
Oh yeah. We did on Clubhouse actually. The topic was hairdressers. Are we essential, non-essential? And it's really interesting because, and the pandemic has had so many phases and how everyone was reacting to different parts. At the very beginning, it was like, oh, this is a quick little break. We're going to put out all these online tutorials and like, we're a luxury and like, you don't need a, and then like, as it went on and shut down and shut down and shut down, it was slowly like, hey, wait a minute. Like, we offer a lot to not only clients, but to the community. And so, yeah, hairdressers are a very unique breed of people that are very special and near and dear to my heart. And I feel like I've, like you, an advocate and a cheerleader, like always in their corner, kind of fighting for their needs and their rights and their voices to be heard and to celebrate what they bring. And for some people, it goes even deeper. And, some of the artists that I work with, we launched about now almost 3 years ago, a segment of the left brain group called the Conscious Collective that was artists who really infused wellness into their practice, somewhere in between kind of technical and the business, but they're healers. And the human touch and the whole experience in a salon. And so some people are now taking that even further and infusing, Reiki, healing services, intuitive practices, even to how they approach their technical skills intuitively. And I also see that as an area that is still pretty niche, but it's definitely growing as more and more people are finding that their tribe and feel like they belong in that group of people that go beyond just technical and infuse wellness and self-care and self-love and healing into their practices. So I definitely can see that the beloved therapist being something real for a lot of clients.
Yes. And, really what we do, this industry evokes self-love. We call it self-care, but it's self-love, and the hairdresser themselves have to get better at practicing that. So that's one of the things I think is everyone's probably became more and more aware of is their own self-care and self-love. And and I just want to say thank you, and I thank you too for being a beauty industry evangelist like me.
Well, my pleasure.
Yes.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I feel like I think we have met in person a couple of times at a few different events, but I'm so glad. Well, we'll definitely actually have to have some coffee or lunch and actually meet in person now that we're here. It's lovely to finally meet you and have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Aryn. Thank you.
Thank you.